For me, it's a question of self-discovery. I know I'm Ethan Mercer, 17 years old, 6 feet 1 inch, 160 pounds. I live on a homestead nestled against ancient forests, the oldest of 6 children. But beyond these basic facts, it feels like there's an emptiness inside, a void where my true self should be. I'm just going through life's motions, day after day. As long as I keep busy with chores and responsibilities, I don't have to confront that terrifying question, who am I, really? But there's another question that haunts me even more. When will Uncle Mason call for me again? Ethan, come to the workshop. Now. Just like that, my stomach twisted into knots. We both understood the unspoken part of that summons. Another character-building session. What had I done this time? I frantically searched my memory for any recent transgressions. Neglecting my responsibilities? No, I'd completed everything meticulously. Falling behind in my studies? Also no. Uncle Mason's limited curriculum of practical skills and selective history left little room for failure. Being harsh with my younger siblings? Never. I teased them, sure, but I also did everything in my power to shield them from Uncle Mason's severe methods. I rose from my small, worn desk and braced myself. There could be no hesitation when Uncle Mason called. Delaying would only make things worse. I stepped outside, where spring sunlight filtered through budding trees, and birds sang cheerfully, oblivious to the dread weighing down my every step. I'd recently learned the word juxtaposition from one of the few books I was allowed to read, an old dictionary hidden under my mattress. The contrast between nature's beauty and my inner turmoil seemed a perfect example. When I entered the weathered workshop with its smell of sawdust and metal, I was surprised to find Uncle Mason standing with his hands visible, not reaching for the thick leather strap that hung on the wall. Instead, he appeared to be concealing something behind his back. "Hello, Elijah." When he used my middle name instead of Ethan, I knew something significant was happening. "Sir, recite for me Proverbs 27 verse 17. I knew this verse all too well. Uncle Mason quoted it whenever he wanted to shape me. As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. Good. Bring the fawn. Fear shot through me like an electric current, making my hands tremble. We had only one fawn, a yearling male deer eyed raised from a tiny, spotted newborn after its mother was killed by predators. Against Uncle Mason's strict instructions, I'd secretly named him Orion. The name came from a tattered astronomy book I discovered hidden in the attic, one of my grandmother's forgotten possessions. I'd read that dusty tome countless times, mesmerized by the star patterns and ancient myths. My birthday falls on April 17th, right in the heart of spring when the Orion constellation begins to fade from the night sky. Uncle Mason had allowed me to rescue the orphaned fawn on my birthday last year, claiming it would teach me responsibility. Orion? Hey, buddy. The young deer perked up his ears as I approached his pen, stepping forward to nuzzle my outstretched hand. Sorry, no treats today. I need you to come with me. Okay? Like a faithful companion, Orion followed me willingly, expecting nothing but kindness. My legs, however, felt impossibly heavy, as if rooted to the earth beneath me. Elijah! With tremendous effort, I forced myself to face Uncle Mason. Orion trotted obediently behind me. First, I must acknowledge your dedication. You've cared for this creature admirably. His pen is always clean, he's well-fed and healthy. Exactly what we need. Can you recite Genesis 22 verse 8 for me? My throat tightened as I struggled to recall the verse. I don't remember that one. Abraham answered, God himself will provide the lamb for the burnt offering, my son. Throughout history, many cultures have marked the renewal of spring with a sacrifice. It's a tradition passed down through generations in our family. Today, it becomes your responsibility. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You want me to kill him? Sacrifice is the proper term. My jaw clenched tight. You set me up. Yes, but not to fail. Step back. I remained where I stood. You made me raise this fawn, care for him like he was my own. And now, why would you do this? So you will become a man and learn that true strength comes from making difficult choices. As if sensing the tension, Orion nudged my hand gently. No, I won't do it. What did you just say? I said no. And no, I'm not going to kill the animal you entrusted to me for some ancient ritual. Yes, I said ritual. Orion. I swallowed hard. Orion deserves to live. You named him after pagan mythology? I should discipline you like a child, but you're 17 now. Remember the story of Abraham and Isaac. That particular story had been drilled into me repeatedly, not just as a warning against disobedience, but as a reminder of my middle name. Elijah, which Uncle Mason claimed was derived from the same root as Isaac. Yes, God commanded Abraham to sacrifice his only son. Isaac was frightened and confused, asking where the sacrifice was. Abraham told him, God will provide. So you understand what's required of you. Are you seriously comparing this to that? This is insane. Was Abraham insane? No. He was faithful beyond measure, prepared to do whatever was demanded of him. As am I. I don't believe you. I won't do this. If you refuse, the darkness that surrounds this place will consume you entirely. I'd heard these cryptic warnings countless times, but now my patience had run out. What darkness? What are you talking about? The darkness is always present, strongest in winter's depths. Now that spring has returned, we must drive it back. We must reject all evil and follow only the ancient ways. What kind of twisted belief is this? Whatever you worship must be as cruel as you are. Uncle Mason's expression hardened. Choose, Elijah. Will you prove your dedication with the fawn or with yourself? Neither. I'm leaving. And what are you hiding behind your back? Uncle Mason lunged toward me with startling speed. A blinding pain exploded in my head. I felt my body slam against the workshop floor. My last conscious thought was recognizing the wooden handle of a shovel. When consciousness returned, I found myself outdoors, stripped to the waist but still wearing my jeans and boots. I was lying on a crude platform of wooden pallets covered with dry straw. Every attempt to move sent waves of pain through my skull. What was happening? Everything became horrifyingly clear when I blinked away the haziness and saw what Uncle Mason carried. Thick rope coiled around one arm and a metal can in his other hand. I heard Orion's frightened bleating nearby. Ignoring the stabbing pain in my head, I lurched to my feet, grabbed the young deer and ran. Ethan, Uncle Mason's voice thundered after me. Come back here now. You might wonder why I didn't leave Orion behind to save myself. But when someone you've cared for is in as much danger as you are, instinct takes over. Our only chance was to reach the ancient forest that bordered our property. Uncle Mason and my parents had always warned us that malevolent forces dwelled among those trees, especially after sundown. We were forbidden to venture deep into the woods. Despite these warnings, I'd often hunted small game there, traveling farther than permitted. The only darkness I'd encountered was natural nightfall, and I'd always found my way home safely. Now, with a yearling deer in my arms and my life depending on speed, those familiar woods seemed transformed into something sinister. My breathing grew ragged as I sprinted through the forest, my bare torso scratched by low-hanging branches. My feet kept losing traction on the damp, decaying leaves. The trees seemed to close in around me, sunlight barely penetrating the awakening canopy. Behind me, heavy footsteps crashed through the underbrush. Uncle Mason wasn't rushing. He was stalking me with the confidence of a predator who knows his prey can't escape. I glanced back over my shoulder and saw his tall figure moving steadily through the trees, unhurried but relentless. Terror surged through me. I veered off the narrow game trail I'd used many times before, weaving between massive tree trunks, my free hand grazing rough bark for balance. Thorns and branches tore at my exposed skin, but I couldn't slow down. I didn't see the exposed root until it was too late. My foot caught, sending me sprawling. I hit the forest floor hard, pain shooting through my shoulders and wrists. Orion bleated loudly beneath me, struggling to free himself. The footsteps grew louder. Desperate, I scrambled upright, gathered Orion in my arms again, and pushed forward. My lungs burned, and sweat streamed down my chest and back. Ahead, a fallen oak blocked the path. I summoned my remaining strength and vaulted over it, just as strong fingers grazed my shoulder, barely missing their grip. A frustrated growl echoed behind me. My heart hammered against my ribs. Through the dense foliage, I spotted a break in the trees, a potential escape route. I charged toward it, pushing through low branches until I stumbled into an unfamiliar clearing. My hope vanished as I realized I was trapped. Steep rock faces surrounded three sides, with Uncle Mason blocking the only exit. "Elijah!" he shouted, his face flushed from exertion. "Give me the fawn." "No! You've made the wrong choice, and now there will be consequences." He rushed toward me, but I sidestepped his charge. His momentum carried him straight into a massive oak tree. The impact knocked him to his knees. Uncle Mason began coughing violently. I could have run, could have doubled back the way we'd come, but something held me in place, transfixed by what was happening. A strange, dark vapor curled from his nostrils, then poured from his mouth in increasing volume. He squeezed his eyes shut as the coughing fit intensified. All I could do was set Orion down. He was getting too heavy to hold, and watch the bizarre scene unfold. The vapor grew darker and more substantial, not rising skyward like normal smoke, but spreading outward along the ground. Instinctively, I knew this must be the darkness my family had always feared, and I couldn't let it reach me. I closed my eyes tightly and held my breath. The encroaching mist inched closer. Pressure built in my chest and behind my eyelids. I struggled to remain standing. Uncle Mason's hacking cough reverberated through the clearing, now interspersed with choking sounds. Above this cacophony, Orion's frightened calls grew increasingly frantic. I couldn't hold my breath any longer. My eyes flew open, and what I saw will haunt me forever. The dark mist had coalesced into a grotesque, shifting face with hollow eyes and a gaping maw. It emitted a low, guttural sound, somewhere between labored breathing and attempted speech. I stood paralyzed, but Orion didn't. To my astonishment, the young deer charged forward, straight through the apparition. The dark entity dispersed like smoke in a strong wind. Uncle Mason's coughing finally subsided. A thin trail of blood trickled from the corner of his mouth. Against my better judgment, I approached him and helped him to his feet. Tears streamed down his weathered face. "My boy," he whispered hoarsely. "The Ancient One required blood and a new vessel. That's not happening. Whatever that thing was, it's gone now." Orion drove it away. I stared hard at Uncle Mason. "Here's what's going to happen. We're going to find our way out of these woods, and after that, things will change. No more character-building sessions. You'll treat me and everyone else with respect. I won't be homeschooled anymore either. I'm enrolling in the public high school in town. There's more to learn than just what you think I should know. And Orion, he lives out his natural life. No sacrifices, no rituals, nothing." Uncle Mason nodded weakly, his body trembling. Everything proceeded exactly as I'd demanded. Instead of his usual authoritarian demeanor, Uncle Mason became subdued, almost meek. He never raised his hand or voice to any of us again. My siblings noticed the change but didn't question it. I started attending the local high school, where I discovered a world of knowledge previously denied to me. Orion continued to thrive in his pen, eventually becoming comfortable enough to be released into the woods, though he still visited regularly. All should have been well, but in my dreams, I still see that formless face emerging from the mist. I feel its hollow eyes watching me, waiting for a moment of weakness when I might open myself to its influence. In those dreams, it speaks a single phrase, "I exist." But when I wake, I remind myself, spring has returned, bringing light and renewal. I exist too, not as anyone's vessel or tool, but as myself. Discovering who that person truly is becomes less terrifying each day. Summer arrived, bringing with it scorching days and brief, humid nights. I thrived in my new environment, making friends, joining the track team, and devouring books from the school library. Uncle Mason remained subdued, speaking little and keeping to himself. My parents, who had always deferred to his authority as the family patriarch, seemed uncertain how to navigate this new dynamic but appeared relieved by the cessation of his harsh methods. One evening in late June, I returned home from a study session to find my youngest sister, Lily, sitting on the porch steps, her face tear-stained. "What's wrong?" I asked, dropping my backpack. "Uncle Mason took Orion," she whispered. "He said it was time." I filled my veins. "When?" "About an hour ago. They went into the woods." I took off running toward the forest edge, following the same path we'd taken months earlier. The daylight was fading, shadows lengthening between the trees. "Orion," I called out, desperate. "Uncle Mason." No response came except for the evening chorus of birds and insects. I plunged deeper into the forest, scanning the ground for tracks, broken branches, anything that might indicate their direction. The air grew noticeably cooler under the canopy. After 20 minutes of frantic searching, I spotted fresh hoof prints in a patch of soft earth, alongside a single set of boot prints. I followed their trail. The tracks led me to a small clearing I'd never seen before. In its center stood a crudely constructed stone altar, weathered and ancient-looking, as though it had existed there for centuries. Behind it loomed a massive oak tree, its trunk wider than any I'd seen in these woods. But no sign of Uncle Mason or Orion. "Uncle Mason!" I shouted, voice echoing through the trees. A rustling sound came from behind the great oak. I circled around it cautiously and found a narrow opening at its base, wide enough for a person to squeeze through. Inside, a rough-hewn staircase descended into darkness. I hesitated only briefly before entering. The passage smelled of damp earth and something else, something acrid and unpleasant. I used my phone's flashlight to illuminate the way down. The stairs continued for about 20 feet before opening into a chamber. What I saw there stopped me cold. The underground room was circular, its walls lined with crude carvings and symbols I didn't recognize. Thick candles provided flickering illumination. In the center stood Uncle Mason, his back to me, arms raised toward a stone pedestal where Orion lay motionless, bound with rope. "Stop!" I shouted. Uncle Mason turned slowly. His eyes were wrong, completely black without whites or irises. When he spoke, his voice had a strange, layered quality. "The vessel returns. How convenient. Let Orion go. Whatever you are, you're not my uncle." The thing wearing Uncle Mason's face smiled unnaturally. "Your uncle has served his purpose, just as his father before him and his father before that. The line of keepers stretches back centuries, but the keeper grows weak. It is time for new blood. What are you?" "I am the Watcher, the Guardian, the one who keeps the balance between your world and what lies beyond. Every spring, I require strength to maintain the barrier. Every spring, the Keeper provides. You're the darkness he warned me about. Darkness, light, these are human constructs. I simply am." I moved cautiously toward Orion, who had begun to stir weakly. "If you need strength, take it from me. Leave him alone." The entity laughed, a sound like grinding stones. "Bold, just like your uncle was at your age. He made the same offer. Do you know why the fawn was given to you? Why you were allowed to form such a bond?" A sick feeling rose in my stomach. "Tell me." "The sacrifice is meaningless without attachment, without loss. The more you care, the more power it generates." It gestured toward the walls. "For generations, your family has served as keepers of the gate. The firstborn son always makes the sacrifice, then eventually becomes the vessel when the previous keeper weakens. I won't do it. You already began the process when you entered the sacred grove months ago, when you fled here with the fawn, when your blood touched this soil." The entity pointed to the floor, where I now noticed dark stains in the packed earth. "You cannot escape your heritage." I lunged forward suddenly, shoving the thing that wasn't Uncle Mason aside, and reached for Orion. To my surprise, the entity didn't try to stop me as I untied the ropes. Orion's eyes fluttered open, looking directly at me. "He cannot leave this place," the entity said calmly. "Neither can you. The ritual has begun. As if on cue, the ground beneath us trembled. Dust and small stones fell from the ceiling. The candles flickered wildly, shadows dancing across the walls. "What's happening?" I demanded. "The barrier weakens. I require strength to maintain it." "What barrier? What are you talking about?" The entity gestured toward the far wall, which began to shimmer like heat rising from summer pavement. "Beyond lies what your kind would call the void. Empty, hungry, vast. For millennia, it has sought entrance to your world. I am all that prevents it." The shimmering intensified, and through it I glimpsed nothing. Not darkness, not emptiness, but true nothingness. An absence so complete it hurt to look at it. The chamber grew colder. "You expect me to believe you're protecting us?" I asked, cradling Orion's head. "Belief is irrelevant. It is my purpose. Your family has assisted for generations, providing the necessary sacrifices. There has to be another way." The entity tilted Uncle Mason's head. "There is always choice. Your blood or the fawn's. Either will suffice to seal the barrier for another year." I looked down at Orion, who gazed back with complete trust. Then at Uncle Mason's body, inhabited by something ancient and implacable. The void wall pulsed, the nothingness seeming to reach inward like tendrils. "If I do this, if I take his place, will my family be safe? As they have been for generations. And Orion goes free? The fawn may leave." I helped Orion to his feet. He was unsteady but able to stand. I led him to the staircase. "Go," I whispered, nudging him toward the exit. "Find your way home." After a moment's hesitation, Orion climbed the stairs and disappeared. I turned back to the entity. "What happens now?" "Now you become the keeper." It extended Uncle Mason's hand, which held a curved stone knife. "Your blood will renew the seal, and you will learn the ancient ways." "And if I refuse?" The void wall pulsed more strongly. The nothing tendrils reached farther into the chamber. "Then all you know ends." I took the knife. It felt impossibly old, the stone smooth from countless hands before mine. "Will I become like you? Will I stop being myself?" "In time. As the old keeper fades, you will assume more responsibility. Eventually, you will guide the next in line, perhaps a son or nephew, as has always been done." The ground shook more violently. A large crack appeared in the ceiling. "Choose," the entity urged. "The barrier fails." I looked at the knife, then at the altar, then at the void wall with its reaching tendrils of nothingness. I thought of my family above ground, unaware of what transpired beneath their feet, of Orion hopefully finding his way to safety. I stepped toward the altar. "A wise choice," the entity said. In one swift motion, I slashed the knife. Not across my palm as expected, but across Uncle Mason's throat. Black ichor, not blood, sprayed forth. The entity howled, a sound that seemed to come from everywhere at once. "You cannot kill me!" It raged through Uncle Mason's mouth even as the black substance poured out. "I am eternal." "Maybe," I acknowledged, backing away, "but you need a vessel, and I'm not volunteering." Uncle Mason's body convulsed, black smoke beginning to pour from his eyes and mouth. The void wall pulsed erratically, the chamber shaking as though caught in an earthquake. I ran for the stairs, taking them two at a time. Behind me, I heard the entity's furious howls transform into something more desperate, actual fear. The staircase began to collapse as I climbed. I barely made it out of the opening before the entire underground chamber imploded, the ground sinking into itself with a terrible groan. I lay on the forest floor, gasping for breath, watching as the great oak tree toppled into the newly formed sinkhole. Silence fell over the clearing. The air felt different, lighter somehow, as though a weight had been lifted. After several minutes, I staggered to my feet and began the long walk home. I found Orion waiting at the edge of the forest, and together we returned to the homestead. My family was gathered on the porch, expressions anxious. "Where's Uncle Mason?" my father asked. I looked at each of them, my parents, my siblings, wondering how much they knew, how complicit they had been in the generations-long pact. "He's gone," I said simply. "He won't be coming back." Something in my tone must have conveyed the finality of the statement because no one questioned me further. That night, I slept without dreaming of the dark entity for the first time in months. 2 years have passed since that summer evening. I graduated high school and now attend the state university, studying anthropology and comparative mythology. I return home on weekends and holidays. My family has adjusted to Uncle Mason's absence, though no one speaks of him. Sometimes I catch my father looking at me strangely, as though trying to see something beneath the surface. Orion still lives in the woods near our home, now fully grown and wild, though he still approaches when I call his name. I've explored the forest extensively, mapping its boundaries and features. The sinkhole remains, now overgrown with vegetation. I've never found any other hidden chambers or ancient structures. But sometimes, in the deepest parts of the night, I wake with a start, feeling watched. On these occasions, I light a candle and sit by my window until dawn breaks. I wonder if the entity truly died with Uncle Mason, or if it merely waits, dormant, for another opportunity. I wonder if the barrier still holds, or if the void slowly seeps into our world. I've researched our family history, tracing our lineage back centuries. I found strange gaps and inconsistencies, male relatives who disappeared without explanation, obscure references to guardians and keepers. Nothing concrete, but enough to suggest the entity spoke truth about our family's role. This spring, I felt a strange pulling sensation whenever I approached the forest. A compulsion to enter the trees, to find the clearing with the sinkhole. I've resisted so far, but the urge grows stronger as the season progresses. Yesterday, I found a small stone knife on my desk, identical to the one I used on Uncle Mason. No one admits to putting it there. Tonight, as the sun sets on the vernal equinox, I stand at the forest's edge. Orion has appeared from among the trees, watching me intently. Behind him, deeper in the woods, I glimpse a shimmer in the air, like heat rising from summer pavement. I don't know if I killed the entity or merely disrupted its cycle. I don't know if destroying it was the right choice, or if something worse now threatens in the absence of a guardian. I don't know if the compulsion I feel is my heritage calling to me or the entity's attempt to reclaim a vessel. What I do know is this: I am Ethan Elijah Mercer, 19 years old, master of my own choices. Whatever darkness exists in those woods or inside me, I will face it on my terms. I take a deep breath and step forward, the stone knife heavy in my pocket. Orion turns and walks into the forest. After a moment's hesitation, I follow. The shadows lengthen as the spring sun sets behind me. Whatever waits ahead, I am ready. I exist,